there. We didn't see you.
Welcome to drama
With Llamas.
in Pajamas.
We are the Drama Llamas. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Athanasia, and we are classical actors who have been making art together since Uber was an adjective.
We are here with you today to help bring you into the world of classical theater. We hope to teach you how to understand mostly Shakespeare, but also other classical playwrights and genres.
Remember, no one wrote a play hoping it would bore you, so we hope to help you not only understand, but to enjoy this work as well.
So, get comfy in your pajamas.
Grab your llamas,
And let's do some drama! And today, grab your campfire snacks and your flashlight.
because today we're exploring the spooky side of Shakespeare.
You are three men of sin, whom destiny that hath to instrument this lower world, and what is in it, the never surfeited sea, hath caused to belch up you, and on this island where man doth not inhabit, you mongst men being most unfit to live, I have made you mad. You fools! I and my fellows are ministers of fate. The elements, of whom your swords are tempered, may as well wound the loud winds as diminish one dowel that's in my plume. But remember, for that's my business to you, you three from Milan did supplant good Prospero, exposed onto the sea, which hath requited him and his innocent child, for which foul deed the powers delaying, not forgetting, have incensed the seas and shores, yea, all the creatures against your peace, thee of thy son Alonso. They hath bereft, and do pronounce by me lingering perdition worse than any death can be at once, shall step by step attend you and your ways.
Mark me. I am thy father's spirit, doomed for a certain term to walk the night, and for the day confined to fast in fires, till the foul crimes done in my days of nature are burned and purged away. List! Oh, list, if thou didst ever thy dear father love, revenge his foul and most unnatural murder. 'Tis given out that, sleeping in mine orchard, a serpent stung me. But know, thou noble youth, the serpent that did sting thy father's life now wears his crown. Sleeping within my orchard, upon my secure hour thy uncle stole, with juice of cursed Hebenon in a vial, and in the porches of mine ears did pour the leprous distilment, whose effect hath such an enmity with blood of man, that swift as quicksilver it courses through the natural gates and alleys of the body. Thus was I, sleeping by a brother's hand, of life, of crown, of queen, at once dispatched, no reckoning made, but sent to my account with all my imperfections on my head. Oh, horrible! Oh, horrible! Most horrible!
That was frightening. Good thing this is our Halloween episode. Join us today as we do our spooky slash fantasy makeup while we discuss a little bit of superstition that may have been around in Shakespeare's day and enter the spooky scenery of Shakespeare's supernatural.
That was some nice alliteration.
Thank you. If you missed episode 7 on rhetorical devices, go back and watch it.
As we hope you know by now, we are all about being inclusive, but we promised a shorter Get Ready With Me this time.
However, you can see the diversity in the theater and stage makeup in episode 8. The link is below, along with some other links to sources that show stage makeup for diverse performers and styles. We will be doing a fantasy look today. We have chosen fairies because they're in Shakespeare a lot. We are doing 2 different versions though. I'm doing a darker slash more evilish fairy, and Athanasia will be doing a more royal, authoritative, happy fairy. We wanted to show you a contrast so that you could see that one design can be used in multiple ways. We already have the foundation, so let's do the border of our face and make our cheekbones stand out. For this design, if you watch our other Get Ready With Me, you'll know after foundation is highlight and shadow, but because this design, it doesn't need the usual highlight and shadow because the fantasy colors are actually going to take care of the highlight and shadow that you need for this particular design.
While we are transforming into supernatural creatures, we would like to share with you the role of the supernatural and supernatural creatures in Shakespeare's plays. Some of his most prominent and successful works involve memorable scenes with spooky, non-human characters and unexplainable events. If you watched episode 9 on the tragic triangle, which if you haven't, you should, you saw how the witches influenced the decisions and fate of Macbeth. Other famous plays that just wouldn't have happened without magical critters include Hamlet, A Midsummer Night's Dream, and The Tempest.
You might have seen in the beginning Athanasia portray the ghost of Hamlet's father.
Doomed for a certain term to walk the...
Okay. Moving on. Hamlet's tragic flaw is considered to be indecisiveness, and we talked about that. I think we talked about that in one of our other episodes, possibly. I know we've mentioned Hamlet before, but it's considered to be indecisiveness. And if you look at ghosts in the context of the Elizabethan time period, his indecisiveness actually makes a lot of sense because back then the ghost, it could have been a ghost, or it could have actually possibly been a demon just pretending to be a ghost. So, is Hamlet keeping his father in purgatory by not avenging him, or is Hamlet killing someone who maybe doesn't deserve it because it's not a ghost, it's a demon? Both of these have really bad consequences, so that helps make his indecisiveness a lot more understandable. This also makes the ghost a lot scarier. Did you just encounter a demon at your door?
Well, I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you. So let's change the subject instead. We're talking about A Midsummer Night's Dream. In A Midsummer Night's Dream, the fairies function as a deus ex machina, which is Latin for God from a machine, that moves the plot along. They mix up the people with their fairy magic. There are 4 lovers, and they put love juice on their eyes, and get them to fall in love with the wrong people. Chaos ensues. And it all works out in the end, but only after the audience has some good laughs. There's another set of characters called the Rude Mechanicals that are some humble artisans who are rehearsing a play in the middle of the woods. One of them is appropriately named Bottom, and he gets turned into a donkey. Just watch the play. But the most amazing thing about the fairies in A Midsummer Night's Dream is how they control the entire world of the play, not just the humans, but even the weather. Titania says to Oberon that he needs to stop cheating on her, and he accuses her of cheating on him, and, well, here's why you don't want to run afoul of Titania. She tells him exactly what damage these accusations have caused in a beautiful monologue, some of which includes, "These are the forgeries of jealousy, and with thy brawls thou hast disturbed our sport. Therefore the winds, piping to us in vain as in revenge, have sucked up from the sea contagious fogs, and in the drowned field the nine men's morris is filled up with mud. The human mortals want their winter here. No night is now with hymn or carol blessed. And this same progeny of evils comes from our debate, from our dissension." So don't take off the fairy queen. Lesson learned.
Yeah, so as Athansia said, don't tick off the fairy queen. And especially, do not tick off the fairies in The Tempest.
Oh.
You really, really don't want to tick off those fairies, as evidenced by my monologue from earlier, as Ariel, the king's right-hand man for mischief and mayhem. The whole island is full of magic, and originally there was a witch that ran the island at first, and then Prospero ended up getting stranded on the island because he had been banished. And he kind of got there, and he kind of takes over, and he sets free Caliban, who is, like, I think the witch's son, and because she was mistreating him. And then he finds the sprite Ariel and binds Ariel, and Prospero binds Ariel to him. The whole point of using the magic and things as a way to help move the play forward and being almost like a character in the play itself is to show that, Prospero, he couldn't handle running his regular kingdom, but you give him a magic island and he can subdue it no problem at all. It's a way for Prospero to have a kingdom and not just be an exiled duke wandering around or getting killed. And it's also a representation of the inner state of his mind and creativity. Brains versus brawn. And actually, it is said that The Tempest is Shakespeare's autobiography, because Prospero can do all of these fantastic things, but at some point he wants to go home. And so this play is kind of like Shakespeare's swan song, if you will.
We won't touch too deeply on Macbeth because we already did in episode 9. And so you know all about those crafty little witches and how they use their powers of divination to show Macbeth bits and pieces of the truth. We talked about Macbeth's tragic flaw possibly not being just ambition but gullibility, and how in that case his dependence on the witches and their divination for the future becomes more and more problematic. The witches could represent a cautionary tale for not looking so much into the future and just enjoying the present. Witches exploit Macbeth's weakness of not being able to take action, especially not by himself, He never would have done all of those things if it weren't for those pesky female voices pushing him to do them. And think about it, Macbeth at the beginning of the play had a pretty sweet deal. He had a good marriage, he had a good job, he had a great house, made decent money, everybody loved him. What can you do?
So, we just went over Macbeth. And you've heard us say a lot in a lot of our videos that it's the Scottish play if you're in a theater. And that is because of the superstition that you never say Macbeth in a theater. Never. Unless it's in your line because you're doing the actual play. Even if you are not performing the Scottish play, you never say Macbeth in a theater. Period. The end. Just don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. One of the reasons that it is supposedly said that the play is cursed is because actually when Shakespeare was writing the play, he was researching pagan rituals with like local pagans and things in the area, and it is said that the spells and incantations that you hear in the play are real spells and incantations.
Double, toil and trouble actually will make your fire burn and cauldron bubble?
Perhaps.
I'm gonna try that when I'm cooking tonight.
And so when the pagans found out that he was doing this, they got really upset. And they cursed the play. And legend has it that the actor who was supposed to play Lady Macbeth, he died, because remember, men played women. He died suddenly before the very first production of it, and that Shakespeare himself actually had to step in and play the role. Some other things that have, like I said, so just saying Macbeth in the theater, bad. Don't do it. Don't do it. But some things that have happened because of saying it is the dagger in the play has been replaced with a real one. So the scene where Duncan gets murdered is actually murder. And other things can happen, like lights can fall. A lot of times they have like weight bags and things to hold things up, and those can fall. So, just don't say it. In Stratford's 1948 production, Diana Wynyard fell off the stage and plunged 15 feet down into the pit while she was doing the Lady Macbeth sleepwalking scene. She had done it a bunch of times, and she had wanted to do it with her eyes closed, but supposedly the night before that performance, she told a reporter that she didn't think the Macbeth curse was real, and then she fell. Thankfully, she was not hurt, but don't tempt the fates, guys, right?
Looks like someone else learned their lesson.
Yeah, someone else learned their lesson. Also, in The Language of Theater by Martin Harrison, it's referenced that the play can be unlucky because it either means that the theater company's not doing really well financially, or it could cause them to fall on financial hardship. This is more of the non-superstitious reason why they say Macbeth is cursed. More of the reality check of why it could possibly be cursed. But the reason that they say that a theater company would do it could cause them financial hardship, or they're having financial hardship, is because, one, the play is really famous. A lot of people know it. It was back then, it is now, and it brings in a huge crowd of people to come and see Macbeth. So, if a company decides to do it, it could be a sign that they're not doing well financially and they're trying to get some money in the door. But also, on the other side of the coin, it can mean that it could cause the theater company to fall into financial ruin because there's a lot of special effects, and it's very expensive, especially today with what people expect to see in the theater to produce Macbeth.
Well, if you're worried about, budget and special effects, you could just have your llamas be the apparitions.
That's true. Just ask your llama friends to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And supposedly, so if you do, let's say you accidentally say Macbeth in a theater, oops, oh no, we don't want things to happen. So to break this curse, you have to exit the theater, spin around 3 times, spit, curse, and then you have to knock on the theater door to be allowed back in.
You have to ask permission.
Yes.
I've always wondered what happens if they say no.
They say no, well then I guess you just can't go back in and your understudy takes over.
I guess so. Don't risk it.
Yeah, just don't risk it. Just don't say it.
Just don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Other theater superstitions that are not quite as Shakespearean or possibly as famous. One of them is the ghost light. It was probably originally meant for safety. The ghost light is just one light that's left on in the middle of the stage, you know, to keep people from tripping over things or keep robbers from and criminals from lurking on the inside. I imagine that this tradition was started after Shakespeare's day because it would be very unwise to leave a candle burning in the middle of the stage with no one there. I'm sure, I'm positive, I really hope. It came after the dawn of electricity. But it's said that this ghost light also prevents ghosts and evil spirits from frequenting your stage, which, you know, considering what all they get up to in the plays is probably a safe bet.
Probably for the best. Keep them off the
Probably for the best.
Another more, probably one that you've heard of, I'm sure you've heard of it in like movies, television shows, etc., is instead of saying good luck to a performer, you're supposed to say break a leg. Now, you would never say this to a dancer. For dancers, you say married. But there are many different reasons why the whole superstition of not saying congratulations and saying break a leg instead came about. One reason would be from more of Shakespeare's time, that it means may your performance be so good that the groundlings drool on the stage and you slip and break your leg. Now, if you don't remember about groundlings, go back to episode 6 where we talk about the time period. It also could have possibly come from the fact that they name the curtains on the side legs, and that when you pass them, you're like breaking past them to enter the stage. So saying break your legs means will you safely cross onto the stage. In Edna Furter's 1939 autobiography, A Peculiar Treasure, it said that this came from all of the understudies sitting backstage and hoping that the principals would break their legs so that they could go on stage and perform.
I mean, the understudy's dilemma is real.
It is. It is.
One that I hadn't heard of, which I had definitely heard of break a leg, and all of its iterations in the other art forms. One that I hadn't heard of until we researched for this video is that blue costumes are considered unlucky.
I hadn't heard that one either.
Well,
until we did this one.
We're learning all the time. Back in Shakespeare's day, fabric had to be hand-dyed, and blue and indigo were the most expensive colors because they were the hardest to find. Colors from that family in general were just kind of rare, like how we talk about royal purple. Many theater companies didn't want to have blue costumes because they didn't want their patrons to think that they had enough money to buy blue costumes and therefore their patrons could take their charitable donations elsewhere. They really did need the money. Every theater in the history of ever needs money. So this superstition was most likely started by producers not wanting to spend the money on blue costumes, so they said it was bad luck as well. This is not the case today. There are many blue costumes that happen on stage, but should we really take that chance?
I mean, it's the Halloween episode. I figured, why not, right?
Why not?
Well, thank you all for joining us today. I know we didn't go over a lot of what we were doing with the makeup, so just a real quick recap. We did our foundation, For highlights and shadows, we just used the colors that we decided to use. I did purples with some silver sparklies. Anastasia did pinks
with gold
sparkles. Shadow all around, underneath the cheekbones, highlight, shadow on the side of the nose, up into the brow, same with the highlight. And then the eyes are just, make sure you do the really dragged out, pronounced points at the end. So basic.
All kinds of little curly
Yes.
cute drawings
Yes.
of your choice.
Yes. So,
Yes.
evil dark fairy.
Regal and more daytime appropriate fairy.
Yes. We hope you enjoyed our spooky tales and got some inspiration from our fantasy fairy look just in time for Halloween. There is a link to the face paint products that we used below, along with the face paint brushes that we used.
Join us next time and find out why this channel exists in the first place.
Make sure to mark that date down in your planner.
Because if it's not in your planner, it doesn't exist.
And please remember, if you like our vibe,
There is that button that is called subscribe.